We've all heard the saying, what got you here won't get you there, which really tells us that something has to change. But why? Why not just keep rowing our boat to just keep going? Well, that all depends on the destination you're trying to reach. And when we're talking about growing a company, I like to say this instead. Incremental thinking won't get you exponential growth. That's what we'll explore in this episode. Welcome to our special 10X Grow Your Business series, where I'm sharing the aha moments that come up when you're ready to make a significant leap in your business and you want to build sustainable growth without compromising your health, happiness, or freedom. I hope to make you stop and say, wait a minute, I don't have to do life or business that way anymore. I have the power to change, to rethink the next phase and move around the obstacles. This series will challenge your thinking in a good way to show you that owning a business isn't just about going hard or bust. Growth is about more than just the money, and you can create wealth beyond practices from the 1950s or some syndicated funnel formula that sucks you in like a vortex. It's time to energize your creativity and do things your way. We're exploring this idea of growing a company. Think of that as a series of plateaus. So what do I mean by that? When you're growing a company, there are different areas where you're going to level off for a bit. And this is a normal cycle of growth. So for me, in my first business, I got to my first employee, and then my first 5 employees, then 10, then 30, and then I backed that off to 20, and then 30, and then I bumped it to 50, 75. You get the point. So you'll just keep going to these almost like incremental milestones. What I mean by plateaus is, how long are you going to get stuck there? Does it feel like you're stuck or you're not ready to move to the next level? So these little levels become what I consider plateaus, jumping off points to the next set of goals. And the reason I think of it as a plateau instead of just a milestone is because when you reach these certain points, you start to think about your business changing in order to support that new level of revenue or new number of employees if you're doing it by head count like I was. There can be different things that you're changing in your business. And sometimes those plateaus are really easy little lily pads to getting to the next point, or they could be really massive jumps depending on what your goals are and how fast you want to grow. So why do you want to get off the plateau? Well, there are many reasons. It could be money. You want more money in your life or more revenue in your business. It could be the impact that you're trying to affect. You could be asking yourself the question, how many more people do I want to have an impact on in their life? Especially if you're a business of service. Not necessarily a professional services context, but the context of I want to serve or be in service to more people. This will become more important as your company starts to not just take small leaps, but those big, giant leaps, is having that basis of this is the revenue goal that I have, and here is how many customers I want to serve. Here is the change that I want to affect. It could also be a challenge. I'm interested in the next challenge. Maybe you see someone who's inspirational or that driver. Well, if they can do that, I can do that too. And that's where the challenge or the excitement or inspiration for who do I want to be next can come into play. And another reason to get off that plateau is the question of, well, someone's got to do it, so why not me? So where have I been in my past? Gosh, I've been driven by many different reasons. And one of my main reasons, especially in my first 2 businesses, was money. How can I get to the next revenue level? And for me, that was always driven by either the lifestyle that I wanted to create for myself personally, or what do I need in order for this business to feel easier? And that usually was a revenue goal. If I had this much money, I could afford staff to take things off my plate. If I had this new amount of money, I could afford to go after larger and larger opportunities. Okay, so money isn't bad. And I'm never going to say money is a bad thing. Money is actually excellent. And if you're not in business to make money, then are you really a business? That's always that age-old kind of thought or question we come back to. But in my past, it's been a main driver to all the decisions that I made. And that isn't always healthy. It's also can be a constraint that we'll talk about later on in this episode. All right, so where am I today? Today, I'm looking at a series of factors, really. Money still plays an important role, and impact plays a role, but not in the way I thought it would when I first started out. So at first, impact feels very external. Like, I want to make a bigger impact, so I'm thinking of growing my company. Therefore, I'm thinking of how many more customers can I serve, or do I need to serve to hit this goal? But then I backed up into impact really can start with what incremental change do I want to make in my own life, which quite frankly is counterintuitive to the whole idea of business because you never really think of business being personally serving. At least I didn't think that business could mix with my own personal goals. It felt selfish. It just didn't feel like it belonged. I was really good, the queen of compartmentalizing my life into different segments and different sections. Different people got to see different parts of my personality and different parts of my thought process and goals that I had based on, really what I wanted to show them, what I was comfortable showing them. So when I used to think of impact, it was always about the money or the growth number, this external thing I was trying to achieve. And the more sophisticated I got, the more I evolved as a person, I realized that the impact that would motivate me for the long term was really, what is the change I'm personally seeking in my own life? And what does that have to do first with setting an example for my children? Becoming that role model that they can look up to instead of having to defer my kids to look at someone else as the role model. That was my turning point. So today I look at many different reasons for why I want to grow my business and why I want to jump to different levels. All right, so there's another applicable saying that I think of when looking to create a fulfilling, wealthy life as I build my business. And some of you may be saying, instead of growing the business or building the business, that they want a 10x. We can't forget how impactful this saying is. The pursuit of happiness, which is really driven by the happiness you get from pursuit. So what is the difference that happiness makes? Well, first of all, we're humans. And do you know how creative you are when you're enthusiastic, when you're all in? That's what happiness gives you. That's what the art of pursuit gets you, is what's growth anyway? It's not that you're feeling happy because you've already achieved it. It's that feeling that you get as you expand and you evolve and you decide that I want to do this next challenge, this next hard thing. And that is the joy that we get from the act of growing itself. I mean, think about when you're stagnant. Are you your most creative when you're stagnant? Or do you really come alive when you can flourish? Do you come alive when there's something new and inspirational that you want to achieve, attain, or go get, or just to chase? So that is the power of this pursuit of happiness. It's that goal that's bigger than you, but really when you boil it down to the everyday, it's the happiness you feel in the pursuit of something that enlivens your creativity. It's important to note that there are seasons in your business. I like to think of it as 4 different seasons. You're growing, or you're adjusting to the growth. You're chilling, And then inspiration strikes. I like to hope that I can control when inspiration strikes. And that's not always easy to do, but this little impact, having it be an internal motivator, something that you want to change in your own life, can be that genesis point for finding your next inspiration. But when you get stuck in the adjust phase or the not growth, but the chill season, that can be frustrating, especially when you're looking to grow again. You arrive in this new place and you're stuck. You're looking for your next idea. This is that plateau, that flat surface. How big is the plateau? How long are you going to dwell there? And is it really important? So as we consider this concept, incremental thinking won't get you exponential growth. Let's break down the basics. All right, so in the basic sense, business is only made up of 5 main parts. Product creation, I like to make mine customer-centered. Delivery, marketing, the sales, and finances. And then that extra little piece is the admin, the team meetings, and email. So as you grow, the system as a whole can get more complex, depending on your business model, your customer base, and the type of work or product your business produces. For instance, when we look at delivery, you have the customer-facing centers and the back office operations. You have people, HR, legal, government affairs or political action committees, and you have finance, which could include SEC rules and government regulations like the FAR, or pulling financial levers to win a proposal or fund your next growth objective. There are so many things wrapped up in the complexity of delivery, just like there are complexities in finance, whether you're looking at cash flow, reviewing where your money is going, or the invoices, just invoice management and dunning your books to get payments that haven't come in. So many things to talk about there. And when you're considering growth, I like to think of it like a 3-legged stool. Gosh, the 3-legged stool is such an analogy used everywhere, but I think it's really helpful to think about it in terms of building your business because you want to look at your technical differentiators and the solutions that you provide as one leg. Then you want to look at your management, which is the key staff, your cost, your program management staff, how you're going to manage, run, and grow this award that you have. And then the third leg is your reputation and past performance. Do they know you? Are you a trusted source? Do they believe in you? Do you know enough about their business, their mission, what they're trying to accomplish as the customer in order to be able to help them, in order to push their goals forward? So these are the 3 pieces that you're considering when you're looking at growing through client work. And then there are levers that you can consider when you're growing. These levers are partnerships. Do you need a strategic partnership to either increase your technical differentiator or to bring in additional staff in a specific expertise area, or to boost your reputation? Hey, we've partnered with this other known value, this other known resource that you've used in the past, Mr. Customer. You can even pull the M&A lever. Do I need to purchase a company who has the reputation or has the technical differentiator or even has the staff I need? And another lever is going to be your pricing. And when we think about pricing, there are so many ways to change how you present your price, or you increase your price or decrease your price over time. So when we look at growth, there can be the 3-legged stool, the lenses that we use to view the different levers that we have. You'll also want to consider the factors. Your win rate. How often do you win? What's your close rate? On each particular pursuit or each contract or each client or customer, you're going to have a computed win rate depending on how much you know about them, how well your technical solutions have like helped somebody in the past, that's your past performance, or how well your technical solution is suited for this particular customer. And I mean technical in the broadest sense because, I've had technology companies in the past, and, if you're not a technology company, you're still looking at your solution as a differentiator on an expertise level or a product level or a service level. So take that with a broad sense. And then you're also looking at the size of the opportunity as a factor. When you're a small business and you're looking at getting a $5 million deal, that is something within the small business realm. So you're able to deliver on a contract of that size, especially when it's spread out over 3 to 5 years. When you're looking at taking on a larger opportunity, say a $100 million opportunity, that has to be something that you can convince the customer that you can deliver on. Because it's not just about, I have a person that's in charge of recruiting, and I have a person in charge of finance, and I have a person in charge of contracts. It's, do you have the systems in place? Do you have repeatable processes in place to be able to handle a program of this size? Do you have a program manager that has the knowledge of how to run something complex? Because when you're talking about $100 million, we're not looking at $1 million a year over 100 years like you would a small business set aside, like a $5 million contract. You're looking at, in 3 to 5 years, can you deliver on this giant outcome? And you're going to need to prove that you have the ability to do that. So those are the factors when we look at the size of opportunities we're going after. And then as you forecast for growth, this is where it really gets interesting, because I like to look at 3 different areas, and 2 are traditional, and 1 is often overlooked. Okay, so let's dive into this. First of all, you look at your external offer. Now, this looks like tweaking your revenue mix, or perhaps you're tweaking your marketing strategy or your sales process. You could also be looking at that delivery system. These are the things that are externally driving to your customer. What offers, when we talk about revenue mix, what offers are you presenting? Are you looking at a membership? Or are you looking at one-on-one services or a group offering? So that's common terminology in the online marketing realm or online business realm. Your revenue mix could be different industries that you're going into. You may have health, you may have Department of Defense, you may have civil. What different industries are you going to be mixing together to create your offers? You might be looking at B2C, your consumer level, versus when and if you sell into corporate. You may have a mix of both. Some of your offers go directly to a consumer, and some of your offers go to corporate. You might even choose not to mix them together. So all of these are your external offer, your external pieces. So the second area of growth I like to look at for forecasting is the internal company structure. There are so many things here. So besides growing your customer-facing employee base, so these are the people that you hire to serve the customer, to present your service or to do the work to focus on your clients, that is. Then you have the internal pieces, growing, training, and managing your overhead staff. Now, this can be quite daunting when you think about, well, I thought I just had to show up, do the work for the client, maybe manage a few things, and now I'm going to hire some employees to help me with the client work so I can work on my business instead of in my business. And oh yeah, I need to have people that can handle the things in the back office too, because there are hats I don't want to wear as a solopreneur. And as you advance from solopreneur into entrepreneur, that's when you start having your tacticians, your technical staff that can take things off your plate, but you're really still running things. And then as you graduate even further into this CEO role and becoming more of the visionary, you're looking at growing entire staff, like divisions or groups of staff. bringing in directors for those pieces, and eventually bringing in an executive team to help you manage everything that's running in your business. So it can grow in these tiers. Another place you can look is your business model. Now, business models, when you think about it as a 300-page document or a project in your MBA where you have to create a business model, if any of you have ever taken an entrepreneur class in your MBA program, that's definitely something you will have had to create. And when you think about the concept of growth, exponential growth, it may make sense to look at your business model. It can actually make sense to look at your business model at all points. But when you're trying to iterate between different paths you could take, different decisions, the ROI can really get you into a spiral. Which decision gives you the best potential ROI? Sometimes those can all look the same. They can all have the potential to be really good. And if you have no other measure of which one to take, that can be a point where you kind of get stuck. It's almost like that philosophical question, what's my passion? What's my purpose? What's my business model? What's the best choice forward using that can be a loop, an endless loop. So one of my favorite ways to look at a business model is to do it all on one page. And I look at it like almost like rapid prototyping. And the business model canvas is something that I found to help me know, can I visualize this business model really quickly? And what are all the pieces I need to consider? Because when you're in an iterative idea phase, sometimes you can forget some of the pieces. Oh yeah, strategic partnerships is probably something I should consider. So the business model canvas will give you an easy graphical visual way to get a bunch of ideas down. And I remember when I was trying to figure out one of my next businesses, I probably created about 30 of those. It was quite crazy. So when I say that you can get stuck in the spiral of creating the perfect business model and using that for your decision-making process, I'm speaking from personal experience. So be careful with tweaking your business model because you don't want it to be this endless spiral. But that is definitely an internal company structure that you can change. And speaking of strategic partnerships, financing options, and restructuring how you leverage your money, those are also internal company structures that you can look at. And, when I say restructuring, leveraging your money, it simply means which money are you going to use? Are you going to use your cash? Are you going to self-fund? Are you going to get a loan? Are you going to consider outside financing? Are you going to consider a merger or an acquisition? So we can talk about that at length, but let's move on. Because the next piece I want to talk about is often overlooked, and I don't want you to overlook it. It's so important. It's mindset, energetics, belief, and identity. Now, I know some of those might be foreign concepts, like energetics. What the hell are you talking about? But bear with me for a second. Just hang on tight, because this third area is a high impact area of growth, because your business will only grow at the speed of growth of the woman or man running it. You grow, your business grows. It's so important to manage. And when you're thinking about growing personally, whether it's professional development and skills, you can't forget the personal development. You can't forget managing your mindset. Because if you're going to 10x your company, it's going to require completely different thinking than you've had in the past. And that thinking has to change. And sometimes we can get stuck in our old patterns and our old beliefs. They can keep you from getting the momentum that you need. They can keep you from the spark, that idea that you want to have. We talked earlier about inspiration, creating that momentum for your next path of growth, and the creativity that pursuing happiness can bring you. But if you don't believe that you can be happy and still make serious money, then you're never going to allow yourself to play a bit to find that next big idea. Managing your mind is important, and so is the energetics. And by energetics, I simply mean as you step forward to take this new path, as you step forward further into becoming that visionary CEO, the leader you are destined to become, what is your energy around it? Are you enthusiastic or are you scared? Are you hyping yourself up to hype up your employees, which really feels false and fake and can fall flat? Or do you genuinely have a thirst for the direction that you're heading? Do you genuinely care? Are you genuinely excited? Are you exhausted? Like, that's energy too. If you're running from a place of being so tired because all you're doing is running around like a chicken with their head cut off from this task to that task, and you're so exhausted at the end of the day, you look over your week and you know you were so busy, but you can't put your finger on exactly what was I doing? What did I do that day? Did what I do even matter? Am I even moving the needle? All of those are tied up into energetics, mindset, managing how you feel in your business, which is why I say it's often overlooked as we don't think about the person behind the business. But truthfully, business is human because humans run businesses. Humans are the genesis of that idea. Humans have the creativity to go forward. We not only carry out the work, but if you're going to say we can just automate that with computers and robots, there are pieces you don't automate. And when you are growing a company, you're going to be interacting with people, whether that's your customers or clients or your employees, your staff. You're going to be interacting with people. And you, as the owner of the business, are one of those people. So managing your mindset and your identity as you grow is going to be hugely important. It's often overlooked, but I'm telling you, this is your high impact area. And when we look at taking our thinking to the next level, as we take our business to the next level, all of this is going to come into mindset and identity and who you become, who you allow yourself to become in the process. So let's take a look at what incremental thinking looks like. First, your external offer standpoint. That could look like, I need to hustle to sell more of this. I think I can stretch from $1,500 a month to bringing in $3,600 a month. It could be in the terms of your internal structure. Oh, great. Now I need to bring in a bunch of staff to help me spend so much time training them. Great. How am I ever going to get all of that done? There's so much on my plate already. It could be around the third piece, which is mindset. I have so much on my plate and it's so heavy and I'm so busy. How am I possibly going to fit more in? So when you're taking your company from earning your first million to 10 million, or from a 7-figure business to an 8 or 9-figure business, you'll need to consider a different order of magnitude. This is the exponential thinking. While the push for 10xing your business can leave a bad taste in your mouth, here's one way you can get into exponential thinking without freaking out that there's so much to do, this huge mountain to climb. Now, this is especially important if you feel driven, almost restless to make a bigger impact, and you're saying, someone has to be the one, why not me? So here are some questions to ask yourself. So we start with the easy stuff, the numbers and a forecast. And then we back into our revenue. How many sales do I need? And it's important here to get clear on your close rate in each offer. And then you simply translate that into how many leads do I need to generate. Some other numbers that you may be used to using: what milestones, metrics, or results do you need to make this goal happen? What can I spend on this growth? And how long do I need or do I have to spend this money? In other words, where is my break-even point? And for those of you that don't use these kinds of metrics in your business now, that's okay. Break-even simply means when I'm spending money in order to generate money, you need to know when you're going to make that money back. Because even though we think of expenses as investments, you only have so much money before that runs out. And your break-even point will give you a measure, just a point in time, where you can see if the trend is going towards earning that money back, or if there's some kind of change you need to make to get to that point. And then the fun part, what's the potential for profit? So those are the number pieces. Those are the traditional things you think of when you're looking at forecasting and revenue growth. Here's where you can alter your thinking on the infrastructure pieces, that too, the internal processes. Instead of thinking about all the work you have to do to train your staff, you start with incrementally getting your processes out of your head in the crudest way possible. Now, for those of you that are overachievers and high achievers like me, excellence is one of my values. So the thought of getting something out of my head in a crude manner is no-go. If you've ever seen one of my journal pages, holy moly, no one's going to be able to read it because it's jam-packed with things. But bear with me, because you can remind yourself that you can hire a curriculum designer, an editor, a writer, like a ghostwriter, to take your notes, make them coherent, and into a product. In fact, they specialize in that. So don't be afraid to just get something out there to get it out of your brain and then hire someone to help you. Then you want to consider, what teams do I need to create to execute at this level for the outcomes I've outlined? Those are the results you're investing in. When you think of hiring staff in order to grow revenue, instead of looking at it as an expense, technically it's an expense on your balance sheet, but you're looking at making an investment in the growth of your business. And that links to earlier when we talked about money. How long do I have to spend this money? Sometimes it's related to the people that you're investing in and when you need to see a result. So think about the teams that you need to execute if you were going to 10x your revenue, because that's going to help your brain go from just hiring people to help you incrementally to looking at the structure of your business as a whole and then putting that into a timeline. Remember, when you go from solopreneur to entrepreneur to CEO, simply phases in your growth, phases in the level of people you bring in, from people to help you, freelancers, to those tacticians, those technical specialists that have expertise that can handle things that you give them, to the directors and the strategists that are going to help you create the work to give the staff and to manage that staff. This is an evolution. The same is true of when you hire out different resources. That is an evolution. You don't hire 10 departments at once. You start incrementally. Now, when you're going to 10x your growth, you may be thinking, wait a minute, I thought we were doing things incrementally. It's that you're not thinking incrementally, but you're still doing business in an incremental fashion because you're evolving, you're growing at the speed that you can handle. Now, when you figure out the investment portion, or when you gain momentum, that's when you want to add in to your structure. So I'm not asking you to take risks here that don't make sense. You still mitigate for those risks. You still grow responsibly, but you're change the way you think about it, because that will change how you think about the staff in general, how you think about the internal makeup of your business. All right. So then we want to look at, what cash reserves do I need to invest in this growth? And remember to think of it as an investment, not an expense. And where can I get this money? How can I fund this? You could still bootstrap it. I bootstrapped my businesses. Even when I purchased another company, that was a bootstrap effort. That was from investment that I had made into my own business to hold cash for a future expansion, for something I didn't know what I would spend it on. And when it made sense to bring in another business, that was the expense I chose. That was the investment. And the often overlooked area that you are now going to pay keen attention to, your mindset. These are the questions not often asked by a typical business consultant that you need to consider right now. The first one is around identity. Who do I have to become in order to pull this off? This is a question about how can you think differently about who you are, the role that you're playing. When we're talking about the role, I like to think of it as rewriting the rules of your own success. So what rules do you want to play by? What rules aren't serving you or keeping you small or keeping you stuck, keeping you spinning? And what would you rather have those rules be instead? Which could simply be around the flexibility and the freedom that you allow yourself in your business. And then when it comes to the role you play, how can you revolutionize that role? This podcast is the Scale Right Revolution for a reason. I believe that as we want to change the face of the businesses that we create, we have to change how we think about how we do business. Doing business differently is the revolution. Your role, changing it and allowing yourself to think in a bigger, grander manner allows you to become the entrepreneur and the leader that you're meant to become. It allows you to do things your own way. And that is so powerful. So when you look at identity, who do I have to become to pull this off? Who do I have to become to make this dream a reality? That is the golden nugget. Because that will help you evolve into thinking differently, into becoming the person you need to become, into becoming that leader that you wish to become, into becoming the mom you wish to become. It doesn't only apply to business because you remember that you're an entire human and you have a life in business. And when you consider what you're doing in your business, it cannot be at the expense of everything else in your life. Who would you be then? You would be lost. So who do I have to become? And then the next question is, how am I going to believe I can do this? The skill, the ability, perhaps you're fighting imposter syndrome or thinking you're faking it and that you're going to be found out at any moment, that you don't know what you're doing. Instead, what do you need to believe about yourself? And I will give this one to you straight from my notebook. This helped me overcome so many barriers and challenges as I grew. It's the belief that I can achieve anything I set my mind to. Now that is probably very common to you. However, sometimes we get stuck on the, if I only knew what to do next. If I only knew what to set my mind to. And remember how I talked about that spiraling hole of what's my purpose, what's my passion, that philosophical question that really has no answer? Setting your mind to the next thing can also be one of those black holes. So trusting that you have the ability, that you are capable of achieving any success you set your mind to is the key to allowing yourself to set your mind to the next thing, especially if you believe that your big dream isn't possible. If you want to achieve your most ambitious goals yet and feel lit up every day in your business, you've got to find that place where the spark happens. And it starts by believing that you can create the dream, the reality, the wealth, it's not just even about wealth money-wise, but the wealth in your life, the freedom to enjoy your life as you grow your business. So, that key thought to have is I trust in my ability that I am capable of succeeding no matter what I choose is a core belief. And you can look at the evidence of your success in your past. So if 10xing your business scares you to death, go back and remember that success happens as you take steps and that you've already been successful. And the final question in this little mindset section is this: what does this new vision even look like? Some people have the idea, I want to 10x my business, but they don't know what that looks like. They don't know how their business has to change. But I believe that those answers really come to you as you start to make the change. As you really get comfortable with, what does 10xing mean? Not what does it look like in the numbers, but what does it look like as it's going, as it's happening, as it's going through the action, as you are playing your role. What does your role morph into? How does your life change? Can you see yourself making those changes? You may not be able to fully see the 10x, and that's okay. You don't have to see the end in order to know how to get there. You just have to know how you want to move through that space, which is, who are you becoming as you evolve your business? What does evolving your business look like? What does it mean? Can you picture the people you're trying to impact? Can you picture the room? So when I was looking at professional speaking, so I'd been a speaker for, over 20 years, and a lot of my speaking was unpaid. It was technically based. I was doing a benchmark and telling people what the results were, or I was leading a black hat session or some other kind of workshop. And those were all kind of part of my job, or part of the things that excited me, things that I did at conferences and symposiums. And I decided, well, I want to be a paid speaker, and I want to do this in a way that brings in all of my expertise as a business owner and as an expert in strategy and personal growth and mindset. I had to envision the room that I wanted to be speaking in to know what goal to set. Was I speaking in a room of 10 to 40 women? Was I speaking in a room of 5,000 men and women? Was I speaking in an auditorium? Heck, was I building a stage like Taylor Swift with the snake coming out and speaking to a stadium of people? What did that dream look like for me? Because depending on the outcome of that visualization exercise will help me set the goals that I need to set in order to get there. Now, my goal was I want to speak to 5,000 people I could see it with tiered seating, like the Lincoln Center or like a stadium, I guess. And that set the goals for me because I had to think about, when you impact a crowd that's that large, what would you talk to them about? What is so common between a large population? Now, the funny thing about that particular story is it's really the same thing as the 10-person crowd. It's the same thing as the 200-person retreat that I'm planning to build. And it's just a difference of how you feel on the stage, the presence you want to give off, and maybe even the format, depending on if I chose to keynote or if I wanted to run a workshop, or maybe a mix of both. The sky's the limit, and that is the point. What does your new vision even look like? Now, when I'm talking about speaking in my particular story there, it's easy to visualize a stadium full of people. But is it easy to visualize how you serve the clients that you serve? And that's where your mind may start thinking about the industry verticals. Am I going to branch out into health or into health tech and biotech? Am I going to branch into corporate clients? Do I just need more people? Do I need an ascension model where people come in at one price point and then as they grow and develop their business, they continue on with me to the next price or to the next offer? It could be retaining your clients. So there are so many ways that you can envision the next thing. And I encourage you to not think about your business in terms of it running as a separate thing. Yes, we do want to separate our own identity from our business identity. Your business sits on the side of you. It is not part of you, even though as entrepreneurs, it can feel like your baby, can feel like this thing that is part of you. You are a business owner. That is your identity. But if you can set that to the side for this exercise of envisioning your future, I want you to really look at your role in that vision. I want you to look at your personal goals and how you can take those personal goals further through your vision of your business, because those two will link together to help you create that spark. And the pro tip, why am I doing all of this? This is such an important question, and I'll tell you why. When you design the trade-off upfront, when you can answer the question, was it all worth it? Well before you've made so many sacrifices that your life has passed you by, that is powerful. It keeps you centered. It keeps you intentional in your actions. It makes sure that the way you're thinking about your business doesn't overtake your entire life, because we want to grow without missing out on life. Because what's the point of growth if you don't enjoy it? And I don't mean I'll be happy when I get there. I mean enjoying the process along the way. You're well on your way to designing a business that allows for your life. No. I like to say it this way instead. You're designing a life that allows room for your business to grow and flourish without sacrificing your own health or your happiness or your humanity. And I'll sneak this one in there too. Without missing out on the fun times with your kids while they're still around, while they still live with you, while they're still all into you. That was one that I wasn't willing to miss. And I didn't want to let go of my ambition in order to have both. Find a way to have both. Why am I doing all of this? Keep yourself rooted in that.